Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is nice and ready for the DevOps deep dive with William. Hope you have a nice cup of coffee to keep you awake to follow the session. I'll just give a few more minutes for people to join, and then we'll start shortly. We have a lot of people registered, so please bear with us for a couple of minutes. Numbers are still rising. Feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to say hi, where you're joining us from, what you're most excited about to learn today. We all want to hear from you. Hi, Jerome. Hi, Francesco. From Paris, Italy, Austria, amazing. Slovakia. We've got people from, German. Guten Morgen. Italy, fantastic.
Buongiorno.
Wow, buongiorno. Bonjour. Oh my God, I can't speak all those languages, but yeah, fantastic. Excited to have you. Hello from Russia. Добрый день, доброе утро. Wow, fantastic. All right, so I'll be slowly kicking it off. I will keep you posted in the chat throughout the session. But so good morning. Welcome to the DevOps Deep Dive with Gitlab and William today. My name is Christine Setching. I'm the manager of field marketing team in EMEA, and I will be your host for today. Just to give you a few pointers for the housekeeping, we will run the session for an hour. It will be recorded, so if you don't manage to stay on for the entirety, which we wish you would, we will send you the recording post-event. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat function, and from the blue drop-down menu, select my name and contact me directly. I will try to help you out. If you have any questions for William throughout the session regarding all things DevOps, please feel free to use the Q&A section on the right bottom of your screen. That will make sure that everyone sees the questions and also sees the answers if we type the answers in there. Yeah, so we'll together today we'll be looking at the DevOps deep dive of the GitLab platform, how to eliminate integration bottlenecks, how to enable end-to-end transparency, how to speed up your software development, and also make it more secure for your business. Yeah, I just saw a question from Saba. Yeah, we will send you the link for the previous session as well and this one, so not a problem. You're more than welcome to watch them in your time. All right, so without further ado, I will hand over to William. The stage is yours, your presenter today, and I hope you enjoy the session.
So hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is William, and I am a technical marketing manager at GitLab. If you want to later play with the project I will be showing you, this is my GitLab handle. From there, you can find the projects and the different demos that I've been creating and having them, of course, in GitLab. So I will start introducing this presentation with in three moments. First of all, I will share something that it can happen in your job, or it can be one idea that you have, how to develop this idea, even if it's let's say a project within your company or some side project of yours. And the Q&A at the end I will address. So the idea or the project. So in this case, what the inspiration for this end-to-end, let's call it like this, end-to-end execution of an idea is that I wanted to create an e-learning application. In other words, a web app that the requirements were that it had to be responsive, cloud native, meaning that I wanted to create something that could be deployed into a Kubernetes cluster and accessible from anywhere and scalable for end users. So having said that, if you think about it and you want to do this, even if it's a small side project, you have to execute some certain steps. And at a very high level, these steps could be defining different milestones, the sketch some UI, define, of course, the architecture of the application, given the constraints or requirements that I just mentioned, of having something that is cloud native, the infrastructure, where do I want to deploy it, all of these things, memory, processing. And then when you have defined these things, and a second step could be, if I want people to contribute, or if my other developers, or just myself, even if it's just you need to define some CI workflows in which how can I contribute code to this project? How can I test it? How can I make sure that I'm not introducing security vulnerabilities when I am adding code? And once I have covered my CI part, now I want to deploy it. And how can I deploy this so other people can enjoy it? So as you can see, even at this idea that might be an MVC and that it sounds quite simple, it already has a lot of steps that need to be considered. With this, I would like to ask you, how many tools do you think are needed to execute this project? So I would say that any answer here is correct, because more than one for sure, if you think a little bit about it. But I want to show you in our case that it's not only about the number of tools, it's also in the number of people that they are part of an execution of such idea. So we have business teams, developers, security, and operations. And all these persons that are involved, they all have a say, because the skill from the designer is totally different than the skill of the backend developer. But we need to bring all these people under the same umbrella or to the same page, so we can execute this project. So I will guide you through the steps that I followed on this imaginary web application, and I will show you how, using Gitlab as a DevOps platform with a single UI, we can go end to end from the idea, planning, until the deployment and monitoring of this application. So here there is an outline of a possible process that this can change. This could be completely different in your case, but this is the process for this MVC that I defined in those 3 steps. So we create a project, we define what are those tasks, that we put them in GitLab issues, we define an artifact that will be the application architecture. And once I have let's say the definition of how I want to contribute to this project, then I can start creating merge requests, and each merge request will trigger some pipelines, and these pipelines can create containers with the image of my application. And this container image will go and will be sent to a job that will have that will execute unit testing. We want to make sure that the code quality remains high, and very important that we are not introducing security vulnerabilities into our code. In many cases, some applications, they need to be tried by a person, not only automated scripts, but we need to review them, we need to click on them, we need to see them. And that's why in this step, we have a review application step that later, if it's successful, we deploy and then we can monitor. So as you can see, I went through an end-to-end from the idea to architecture to development and deployment and monitoring. And in this process, there are different skill sets, people and profiles that they are in many cases needed to make it happen. So this process that you just saw, all of this process lives and resides within this project, and how GitLab with a single UI can help us to navigate through all these lines and processes that I just showed you. So consider this. I am a developer in this project, and there is this option of issues where I can see all the open ideas or tasks that need to be executed in this project. So we can see there are other developers collaborating, generating incidents or opening issues. And I have this view, my board view, where I can, for example, filter using different categories or who is assigned. So in this case, we have some pretty fun labels where this is on the queue, and this will be due on Friday. So I want to let know my team that I'm working on this, so I can change it to in progress and give priority to it. So I put it in the first one. So when I click on the issue, in this issue, I can see a description of it, and let's just for illustration purposes, I will show you how, if a developer says, okay, I want to work on this specific issue, doing what is being asked in order to execute it. So we can create a merge request. So creating a merge request is the way in which I'm saying, I want to contribute to this project. I want to make a change. I want to add some code. And given that it could be like changing a background image or just changing some text in a template, I could make use of the web IDE for these quick changes. I can trigger this. This is an integrated IDE where I can just have this view of my repo here from here and alter a file that I would like to modify. So as you can see, we have the whole project structure here with the Docker files. We have a Docker file and the definition of the GitLab CI that then we will go deeper on that. Different scripts that make it happen. And let's make a small change. So I want to, for illustration purposes, let's delete this. And let's say that now I want to commit. So I commit these changes and I commit it to the branch. Once I click here and commit, you will see that GitLab is telling me that a pipeline has started. And I have started a pipeline that I can see associated to this merge request here. And this is very important because consider this, what is just happening. What I did is that I just changed, I just make a little change and I decided to commit these changes. And now this will start an automated pipeline with different steps. And in this merge request view, only if all of these steps that are automatically executed are successful, then someone who will review this can consider if they want to approve it and merge it into the code base. So different things to notice here. First, this will take some time because we are building the Docker image, because what is happening right now here is that my GitLab runners, they are, and I will open one, my GitLab runners are using the definition of some of the tasks here, and they are executing them. So this job in specific is going to my repo, reading my Docker file and saying, okay, this is the image that we need to pull. These are the things that we need to do. And once this job is successful, it will move to the other job, because first we build the image with our code and then we test it. So at this moment, all these steps are happening. I just made this change that's associated with this merge request. And very important to notice here with the 5 more approvals is that we have seen in probably is your case, many of your companies, that there are different scenarios where we need to approval and reviewers in order to put code from different, to navigate code through different stages to making it put it into the main code base. In this case, we have different rules, ones that are triggered automatically and other ones that are triggered by setting up a code owner's file. So in this case, because I made some change to the HTML file, we want the approval of the designer, because we before merging these changes, we would like the designer to say, yes, it follows it is not destroying the UI, so I review it, and if I'm happy with that as a designer, I approve this merge request. So with this, and also coverage check, is that the code that we commit should be tested. So with this template here that we are using in GitLab CI, we want to make sure that the coverage or the testing is not degrading. and that I'm not introducing vulnerability and into the code. And second, you can also create your own custom rules. You can create rules that you can name it like security architect approval or something, and then you point it to the specific person that needs to, or groups, it also can be a group that need to approve this. So because this will take some time, I will show you another merge request that was already triggered before, and it finished. It did all the things that it had to do. And then this one, the change was slightly different, was to the CSS. So we need another approval for the CSS. But the other rules you are familiar with are the ones that we described before. So things to notice here that are very important, and I will go through each one of them, is that we made a change in the code. We created a merge request, and in this merge request view, it is telling me when I executed all these steps that you define as your CI workflow, I could find that your code quality had degraded. It found security vulnerabilities, probably some library that I am using, or bad code practices. And it even tells me if I have the proper license adjusted to my code. So here you can see that as a person that is reviewing this merge request, it has a lot of things that it can use to decide if this needs more work or if this can be merged into the main code base. So, and if we click here in pipeline and we see all the steps that were executed, we have a specific tab that is one of my favorites to check whenever I am running pipelines. That is this code quality one, because this one is making use of the scanners that are defined in the GitLab CI, and it's passing it through all the code, and it's telling me as an example that this function here has cognitive complexity and it's giving me the number of the line where it detected that this is too long, that I might consider refactoring. And it is giving me in the pipeline, it's telling me that it is 5, so I might consider refactor this. So you as a person that you are reviewing this merge request, you can decide if this is relevant or not in this case, or you could go to the security dashboard and, for example, create some rule in where, or having a look into the vulnerability reports and say, we don't accept any merge request if it's high, or you name it, you define it. The important thing here is that just by triggering one commit, all this, the GitLab as a DevOps platform is taking care or checking this, applying the scanners to your code. So it's proven, and there are studies that they show that the cost of solving a vulnerability issue, depending on the stage in the software development where you find it. So the cheapest one is when you are in the code stage. You don't want to miss that maybe you have a security vulnerability merge into a staging environment, for example, or even worse, to production, to find out that there was something wrong. So at this stage, when the application is only in the code, still at the code stage, is the cheapest stage in which you can find these security warnings or vulnerabilities. So one of the things that is also very important and that I enjoy the most, especially in this one, is when I use, when we use the merge request, we have this option here that is called View App. And this View App is showing me, this one, when I click here, is showing me this ephemeral environment that gets created with this URL that is associated to the merge request that I just did. So in this, what is going on here is that thanks to the GitLab integration with Kubernetes, whenever I create a commit, I can also trigger the creation of an ephemeral environment that only lives while I am reviewing my merge request. So this is how my page will look like. And as I said, there are cases in which even the test can pass, but you want someone that will play with the application, will click around, will see if it's responsive, if not. So having this opportunity here to review the application, to see, for example, if the CSS is rendering properly and everything, the UI, the designer could say yes. In this case, this is an honest mistake. I wanted to change the background to some pencils. And now, thanks to this ephemeral environment, I can tell that it needs more work, because what I wanted to use is this one, but I wanted these pencils to be visible. And as you can see here, they are not visible, but I am realizing of it when it's in a merge request, not when I deploy it later to another stage where I say, wow, it is not rendering properly. I'm pretty sure that many of you have visited a website on production to find out that something is not rendering properly. That wouldn't be the case in this scenario, because I can see it before I even merge the changes. So this is very important, this merge request view, because as you can see here, every time that we execute the pipeline, we have this report that we can expand and see more. For example, with the security one, when I click on view full report, I get a more comprehensive report of security vulnerabilities, where I can filter by the different severities and the different scanners that I was using. So just to align it with what I'm just explaining right now, I see that there is a question that it's asking about security vulnerability checks. And the question is, if do we need to build those checks or configure them? So to answer your question, the configuration comes from enabling them in my GitLab CI YAML file, where I am adding these templates, the ones I'm highlighting here. So these templates that start by security, just by saying include this template, all those scanners that are passing, that are getting executed at the moment of doing creating the commit, these scanners are the ones that generate this report that I was just showing. So to answer your question, the thing that you will need to do if you want to make use of these scanners is to add this template here. Okay, so continuing with we were in the merge request. So once we finish, let's assume that we finish the merge request, I would like to see different things about my deployment. So one of them is that when I am happy with the changes and I say yes, merge, and I merge the changes into my code base, they will be deployed. And when they are deployed, they will start another pipeline that is the production pipeline. So this pipeline will be similar to the one that we just saw in production, with the difference that the last step, like for example, this one, is deployed to my production environment. So this pipeline that is here, I can tell that is the last commit that made it to production, because the other ones, they are not, they were not merged to production. So when the pipeline has been finished and deployed to production, like in this case, here I am deploying now to my Kubernetes cluster, as you can see here, based on the kubectl get deployments. And all of these things happen automatically for me. The GitLab integration with Kubernetes allowed me that once I have a configuration created, only thing, and if you can for a second appreciate the experience that it will be for a developer, you can have the DevOps engineer that takes care of the GitLab, Kubernetes, Ingress, Helm, you name it, integration. And then you as a developer, if you are just focused in the UI in the front, only thing you need to do is to worry about your UI code to your front development. You don't need to worry about the cluster, the infrastructure. So what this does is that the developers will focus more in what they are experts at. In this case, when I was changing something in the HTML, it triggered a set of things that happen thanks to the collaboration with other people and that they have, for example, the DevOps engineer skill set that he says, this is our pipeline configuration. The security architect said in our pipeline configuration, we need certain scanners to go through. So all of these things put together under a single UI, it will, at the end of the day, speed up collaboration and it will make your life easier. As a developer in this case, and as a security architect, because you don't need to start reviewing tickets, you just go to a specific issue, a specific commit, and you can see the alarms that were triggered. And going back in our story, because remember, in this story, we were talking about the code and the merge request, and how the pipeline gets executed and the images get created, and the unit tests, code quality and security reports. So here we saw that in one of the merge request examples, the code quality decreased, that there were some things that say, hey, you should consider refactor. If you want to approve or not, it depends of your policies. And the review is the ephemeral environment that gets created. And if we say, yes, I'm happy with that, you deploy it to Kubernetes. And so now we are in this step of deployment, where here under deployments, I have access to see the health of my environment. So each one of these green squares, they correspond to pod instances and the health of my Kubernetes cluster. And this one, these red dots here are canary deployments. So I know I have here canary deployments that if I want to make some incremental rollout of changes, I start with the canary ones until everything is green or not, depends up to you. So as you can see here, I will use the put on the hat of the DevOps engineer in the CD stage, where all of these things can be defined and you can play around with all of them. So under a single UI, we have seen now that a developer, a DevOps engineer, a project manager, if we think about how you want to work with your issues, how you want to define it, because here in the issues, you can have the boards, you can define milestones for your project, define iterations if you use Agile, so sprint is this. So there are different, as you can see, single UI can bring together different profiles. And now, going back to our process, we have dashboards for monitoring. So there is another huge part here that I will only emphasize in the metrics ones under monitoring. And this is that my application was deployed to Kubernetes. Remember in my MVC steps, I said that I wanted it to be cloud native, and Gitlab has been previously integrated with Kubernetes. So when I come to monitor and metrics, here I can have a view, a dashboard of the resources and the status of the cluster. So I can have a view of the different stages, environments. In this case, I'm checking production the last 8 hours, memory usage, core usage, and so on. And one of my favorites to use is this one that is called business metrics, that is custom. So in this one, you can define your own endpoints by instrumenting your application. What it means is that in your code, you can add monitoring points. And when you add these monitoring points in your code, later, if you want to check here, how is it going, the request to that endpoint that was instrumented, you can have this view here. So why is this important? And I would like to highlight, because this is based, and probably you can relate to this is based on real life. I have a friend that he is DevOps engineer in an insurance company in Europe. And one day I asked him, what will happen if you don't show up tomorrow to work? And he told me, well, let me think about it. Then he said, the business, they will not be able to know if people are attempting to buy online insurance, because the main part of his job was to monitor a subscribe button, because all the traffic in that subscribe button to buy online insurance was the one that later was getting traduced to euros or dollars. So his job was to make sure that the infrastructure that was being responsible to keep the backend and this click on subscribe up that was his job. And that part of the job, that if you think about it from the DevOps perspective, he has to monitor the infrastructure and make sure that the endpoints and everything is up. But then this touches the business, saying this button here is the one that gets translated to dollars. So if we want that DevOps engineer having peace of mind and knowing that his job is that he's doing his job and that everything is going on in the way that it should, so you could create these endpoints that they will just tell you that if this is going up, for example, so good, it's great. You don't need to go to any other dashboard to find out if the people are clicking or not. And this later can be translated to something more business-like. But the whole inspiration to say, let's create a custom metric that we want to, if I am a DevOps engineer and I just want to know if my job is having an impact, so let's just create this endpoint. And while we also monitor the health of the application, we are also monitoring some metric that can resonate with business. So there are more things to this. I will jump now to the other side, another part of the product that we can have under this single UI, and is that when you want to let's say, if someone asks you what is the return of investment of your DevOps strategy, and how do you know that you are better today than you were last year or last month? So there are different metrics, and among them, we know that there has been a lot of study and research in the DevOps community, and they came with the DORA metrics. So we have that these metrics can tell you if you are improving and if your investment in DevOps is paying off. So one of those things is that you can measure this by deployment frequency. So in this case, this is a demo platform. So there is not the frequency of deployment is not that high, but assuming that you are a small, medium, big company, these metrics this will be more populated, and you can use this to find out and compare what has been your deployment frequency, lead time of it in different time frames, and in other types of reports, we can also have like CI/CD analytics. I can see, for example, how many pipelines have been triggered, how many of them were successful, and different analytics views in regards to code review, issues, and this value stream analytics, where as a project manager, let's say now using the hat of a project manager, if I want to know where is the bottleneck in my development and in my application, why is it that if I come here and I said, I would like to see why we are not deploying so frequent, what's going on? So you could find out where your bottlenecks are based on different metrics that you have here in the chain of value stream. We can see that many of there is an issue, for example, that has been open for the last 13 days. So this can help you to make corrections to see, oh, maybe it's in the stage of review that is taking the longest because something. This is what it will be up to the person with the critical eyes that they know how to read and find these bottlenecks. I'm going a little bit higher in the view. If we come, this application lives in a group. So you can think of this like you can group your applications depending of the function that they do. And when you go to the analytics view, you can also have different metrics, but this time at a group level. And one of the most important is this one that can tell you what is your stage in DevOps adoption. What if you want to see your adoption over time, how are you doing with this? So because in this project I have enabled, as we saw in the demo, I have custom rules for approval. We configure that if there is certain or a specific file like a CSS or HTML that gets modified, we need code owners, someone that says, like in our case was the designer. So this is telling me that in the dev part, the dev features, I have adopted everyone's, all of them. And in the security one, I have adopted most of them. I haven't enabled Dust. So as a way to improve my DevOps adoption, I can start thinking that now I need to enable Dust in my application. And in the operations features, we have everything. You saw that I was using GitLab runners when we were building the image, triggering pipeline, deploying, and in the deployment part, we were using the environment views or staging, production, and we saw all the pods and the health of them. So with this, I would like to start closing, showing you that we went through all of this process that involved different type of profiles, skills, and collaboration. And we went from an idea of creating a web application that should be cloud native, and we deployed, and we saw a possible workflow when a developer can make a change, and then this will trigger all of these infrastructure pipelines, review, security testing, and so on. So let's recap with this. Having a DevOps platform, what we gain, one of the gains that we have is that we get also visibility into the DevOps value streams. So as a person like the one I was impersonating, saying that a project manager can see in the software development lifecycle, for example, where is a bottleneck? If I want to change something, modify something, where are the places that have room for opportunity to speed up my development lifecycle? And this I have in the value streams part. We saw that by using a single UI, we could enable more velocity and collaboration, because one thing is one developer doing something that can be reviewed when it, for example, triggers a security issue. A security architect can look at it with the associated commit, learn where it happened, and in many cases and at the end of the day, when you bring these things, you improve your skills as a developer. In the case of that function that had 11 lines and it was suggesting to maybe refactor it, maybe you can find a way to make it shorter. So you also improve your coding skills while maintaining high quality standards in your code base. We saw that by adding with these templates, the security scanners, we could make sure that a commit in the merge request that had security vulnerabilities associated with it didn't make it pass or didn't make it through another stage where it will be more expensive to fix this vulnerability. We were taking care of it at the coding stage before it's too late or more expensive in another month. And all of these things that we saw are possible thanks to having a unified data model in a one single user interface. We could change, we could switch hats, move, see for example, here in the analytics reports or analytics about around my DORA metrics or CI/CD, the code review, issues, everything, thanks that I have a single UI with a unified data model. One last thing that I would like to emphasize is that when it comes to the building big part of all the magic, let's call it like that, that is making all this possible. It is thanks to using my GitLab CI YAML file, where all the things you saw, that building the image, executing the scanners, and creating the review application, all of these are defined here in the YAML file. And we are working on making this thing easier and easier to work with. And one of the examples of that is that I can have a pipeline editor where all these things I can visualize. And also when I am at the moment of writing my YAML file for my jobs, before I commit the changes and I test if the pipeline is correct, I can have this feature here, this link, where it's telling me that the syntax is correct and I am good to go. So wrapping up, all of these things are possible thanks to having a single UI and a unified data model where all the people with different skills, different hats, they can come together and go end to end in a process like the one that I just described. Okay, thank you for your attention. I will start reading now if we have questions. So I see some questions that was answered by other attendee. So there is one question, then how to change, how to put GitLab in dark mode. I think you can come here to preferences, and then you can select the theme that you would like, and there are different ones, and one is dark. Another question is that how do we inject testing artifacts in this process? Well, there are different answers to that. In this case, for example, I'm just using, this project is written in Python, so I'm using scanners that they work with Python. But you can also write your own tests, and in the pipeline, in the YAML file of the pipeline, not in this project, but there is another project where I have some custom tests and I am using PyTest. So what I do is that I write the test and the test associated with the script, and then here in the script part of the pipeline, I am calling them and executing it. In this case, we see this one in the step of testing. I am testing using Python, the library of PyTest, and then I am using the coverage in order to get a report of the number of the success or report in regards to the testing that I just executed. So wait, I see another question. Okay, thank you. Christine, do you?
Yeah, there is, William, there is a few questions in the Q&A. If you click the Q&A button.
Yeah, I don't see more. For some reason, my chat got frozen.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. Then I'll read it out to you, no worries. So we get a question from Rolane. Can we define different approvers for each build step, or is it the same for every step?
Okay, yes, you can define different rules. In my case, for example, I defined that I had one that was called QA. So when you go to settings in GitLab, and you can, in your project, you can come up to different approval rules and they can be custom. So it's not the ones that I show. It's just an example of that. But you can customize to your own. And one of the, for example, within GitLab, one that we have is that we sometimes require approval from an entire group. So it's not only a person, but you can also have groups. So here in my screen, I have merge request approvals. And if I expand this view, I will see that I can add approval rules. And the ones that you saw in the demo are the ones like coverage check, QA, but I can add some more rules.
Okay.
And now I can see another question that it says that if there is a Docker image for special jobs. So you in the GitLab CI YAML file, you can pull images. You can pull your own image if that image you have built in order to run certain test. In my case here, what I was doing was creating a Docker file. I created a Docker file that creates an image. And then just to expand on this, we have also in GitLab the container registry, where every time that an application has been deployed to production or staging on different environments, I am adding it to my container registry. But in this container registry, you can also have your own images that you can pull from your own registry. So one of the advantages of this is that when you have images in your own container registry in GitLab, you don't have to configure tokens or API tokens in order to pull it from an external service. You pull it from your own container registry where your own project lives. Another question is it possible to define a specific custom business metrics? Yes, it is possible. And in my case, what I did was to define it for an endpoint. And the endpoint was wrapped, the instrumented around the subscribe button. But you can define it, the thing you will need to know and to learn. In this case, GitLab is pre-integrated with Prometheus. And so the Prometheus have different SDKs. I use because this is a Python application, I use the Prometheus SDK for Python, and you decorate the function that you want to monitor. So you just put a decorator on top of the function, and you define in Prometheus that every click will be an event. And then when you do this and you deploy your code with this function decorated, thanks to the integration GitLab Prometheus, then when there are events associated to that function, you will get them in the dashboard as your custom business metric. That's how it works. So yes, I think I answered your question.
Okay, yes. Great. So then there are a few more in the Q&A, if I can read that out to you. So one is asking, can I have code repo to review by myself? I want to explore features from GitLab.
Code review?
Code repo to review by myself, yeah.
I don't understand the question. If
the person maybe can specify it. It's anonymous, so I don't know who posted it. All right, let's maybe whoever wrote that maybe can clarify in the chat. Let's go to Peter Ragib's questions. Is there a way to show maintainability grade and test coverage percentage badges on a repo, like on GitHub?
Yes, there is a way that I don't have. Wait, maybe I have, because all of these things that we have here, they come from GitLab CI and the different templates that I'm using. So there is, for example, in code review, there is a template that is called test coverage or code coverage and code quality. So in this project, I'm not sure I have it available, but there is a way in which, and we can send, there is in our playlist, GitLab Learn on YouTube, there is one demo only about it that I created myself, in which you can see the different ways in which you can see the lines of code that were not tested. So you have a report of code quality and also or test coverage. And we can come back to this person with the link of the video in GitLab Learn, where I have the demonstration and how to enable it. And we can get, as he was asking, some percentage of what percentage of the code has been tested or not. And you can even add a badge to your project in the main page of your project with the percentage of passing or the code.
Okay, great, thank you. And the next question, there's a lot of questions for you. It seems to be a really hot topic. So a question from Sava. I saw that you're using fuzz testing and dust. Isn't that quite the same testing method?
Excuse me, SAST and what?
Fuzz testing and dust. Isn't that quite the same testing method?
No, the SAST is the one that I'm using in the main script, and the fuzz testing I was using an endpoint in one of the scripts I have. There is an endpoint that I'm just trying different inputs to see if it breaks. Is different type or for in my use case, because in one I just wanted to do this static analysis to a main script, and in the other one that is in the repo I had something that is expecting a input data. So for that one, I was using the fuzz testing because if you go to the literature around fuzz testing, this will try different inputs to see if your function fails with something that you couldn't think beforehand. So that and one of the reasons that I am doing that is because this project itself is a demo project in which we want to illustrate different capabilities that the tool has enabled and that you can enjoy. But it is not intended to necessarily make sense of how it would be in a real application. It's more to illustrate the what is possible under a single UI with a DevOps platform. I want to go back to the question of code review. I'm not sure I answered it. So can we reread? Did the person expand it in what was intended to be asked?
No, unfortunately, I cannot see any more clarification on that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Because the other thing that occurs to me is that when you have a merge request and you want to do code review, like in this case, I have the merge requests that are open. And in this scenario, that I think this was the merge request that we opened at the beginning of the presentation. Yes, this was today. Here you can see that we have an option where you can add a reviewer. And when you add a reviewer to this, so here in this one, you can come here to the changes of the application. What was the changes that you did to the code? And under this view, you can start a code review. Here, let's say someone can come and comment here something and suggest a change. We do this all the time in GitLab internally. When someone wants to contribute to the public docs or to the code base, you can, using this, you can open a window and start reviewing code and suggest changes that only when all the threads are resolved is when you can merge, assuming that it fixed something. So this is one of the tools for code review, one of the ways, but I don't know if the question was more about the analytics
I think it
code
was,
review.
yeah, I think it was more related to that person wanting to try things out on their own to kind of have the insight into the repo so they can try the features of GitLab. But I think you pretty much answered that with some additional. All right, we've got so much more to cover. We've got 5 minutes left, so we'll try to cover as many questions as possible and then reach out to you individually to answer them after the event. So another question from Subhojit. Is there a way to do automatic deployment for cloud infrastructure using Terraform?
Yes, yes, and we do that all the time. We can come back to him with more details, but that's actually how it is done a lot. Look here in infrastructure, we have the Terraform, and that goes, the person can also come to one of our future webinars that will be about GitOps, where they will go deep into this, and he probably will enjoy that if it's into Terraform and GitOps.
Yeah, we have a GitOps deep dive on the 22nd of October, 26th, sorry, of October. So you're welcome to join then as well. All right. One more question. Which programming languages are supported by the platform? Can we build, test Java or .NET?
Yes. First of all, when in the DevOps platform, one of the foundations is the source code management. That is a version control system. So any code, any text can be placed there. And as per the different languages supported, there are many. I cannot tell you. It's better to send a link with all the different tools available per programming language. For sure, Java, and as an enterprise programming language, for sure, Java. In my case, the scanners and the different tools to code coverage and code testing, I am using the specific ones for Python, but from the tip of my tongue, I know that there is for Ruby, for .NET, for Java, for Python, JavaScript, for Go, and many more. The best answer is the link to the public docs, where you can see the whole list of the things we have available.
All right, great, thank you. Some more questions from Arbor. Are these security scans specific to a technology used in the code, or are they generic?
I want to read it. Where is it?
I'll put it in the chat for you if you can't. You can't copy it. It's in the Q&A section.
Yes.
The very top.
Okay. Can you reread? I
Yeah.
see a lot of questions. You can. I saw it. Arbor Osmani.
Yeah, at the top, at the very top.
Okay. To answer this question, these security scans are in this case were specific to my Python scripts. They were not generic. I was using the ones that they detected that it was Python. So that's why if you saw there was one of the vulnerabilities also to do secret detection or using SEMREP, they detect the language in which it was written, and then they select the specific scanner that is relevant to the language that was detected. That's another one, but they were not generic. That is connected to the previous question of different languages supported, because there are different tools that when you do the include template, they will find what is the scanner relevant to the language in which your application has been built. But what this means is that you don't necessarily have to go to the nitty-gritty or details of knowing which one is used, because for that reason is that you can also leverage the templates in the CI YAML file. And I see another question that it says, is there a Docker image for special jobs? I think I answered this one, that you can create your own images and you can pull them from your container registry if it's relevant for you to give an example with that. Recently, we did a POC where we were testing machine learning code, and testing machine learning code is different than testing traditional code. So in order to run the test, we had to create a specific Docker image that was with the load that we wanted to try the model. So in that step of the pipeline, when we wanted to run certain tests, the first step of the pipeline was to pull the specific image that was relevant to the machine learning code testing that we wanted to do. So to answer that question, yes, and I give as an example, we did that last week. We created a specific image for a specific test in something slightly different, which is machine learning code.
Okay, well, I would say we are at time. I know there's a lot of questions, so everyone's questions that got unanswered will reach out to you individually and answer them for you, so don't worry. Thanks again for joining today. Thanks to William for a really, really useful and insightful session. As mentioned earlier, we will be running a GitOps specific session on the 26th. It's the same link to register through the registration page, but if you're here, you should have received it and you'll receive the joining details in time for the next session. The recording will be sent out to you, also the recording from the previous session, so the ones who missed the last one will be able to review that as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry, I'm losing the voice and I wasn't speaking that much. And we're looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.